Democrats suffered two huge losses in court to Elon Musk and Donald Trump as two different judges reject these ridiculous requests from Democrat state attorney generals that Donald Trump and Elon Musk shouldn't be allowed to rid the government of waste and corruption. As always, like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps me out a ton. But let's start with CNN frustratingly having to admit that these are huge wins for Trump and Musk.
The Trump administration scoring a big victory in court as a judge rejects calls from blue states to block Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency from obtaining federal data. Our chief legal affairs correspondent, Paula Reed, is on the story for us. What are you learning, Paula?
So, Wolf, here we're talking about Judge Tanya Chutkan. She's the Obama-appointed judge who oversaw Trump's criminal case related to allegations of election subversion. Today, she declined to block Elon Musk and DOGE from accessing data at a slew of federal agencies. Now, this lawsuit was brought by a group of Democratic state attorneys general. They were also asking Chutkan to block DOGE from being able to fire federal employees or place them on involuntary leave. Now, Chutkan declined this request. She said that, quote, they have not shown that they will suffer imminent, irreparable harm absent a temporary restraining order. That's what they were asking for. She went on to say, the court is aware that DOGE's unpredictable actions have resulted in considerable uncertainty and confusion for plaintiffs and many of their agencies and residents. It remains uncertain when and how the catalog of state programs that plaintiffs identify.
When you have an Obama-appointed judge making this ruling, it really highlights how frivolous and unconstitutional these requests by Democrats are. This same judge was quoted saying, I am not going to rule to shut down the federal government, because that's essentially what the Democrats are begging them to do. They may not like what Trump is doing or what Elon is doing, but it is well within the legal permissions and powers of the executive branch. And it also proves that these other federal judges who are issuing temporary restraining orders and trying to block Elon Musk are nothing more than activists whose rulings will be shut down by the Supreme Court. I always reference the Supreme Court of Colorado that voted to have Trump taken off the election ballot only for it to get overturned unanimously by the Supreme Court, something that never happens because it was so illegal and unconstitutional. And that's exactly what these activist judges are doing. And all it's going to do in the long run is lose them a ton of credibility as unbiased interpreters of the law. This Obama judge was clearly not willing to have her reputation and credibility squandered in order to appease some radical leftists. Now let's get into them discussing the second kill shot ruling to the Democrats. Watch.
DOGE's second big legal victory on this issue just today. Earlier today, another Obama-appointed judge here in Washington, Judge Randy Moss, ruled that DOGE would not be blocked from accessing data at the Department of Education. And that came after a group of students that receive financial assistance sued to try to protect their data. But again, the judge ruled that they had not shown how they would be harmed. And at least 4 times in recent days, emergency lawsuits and legal actions against DOGE have failed, mostly on this idea that judges say, look, you haven't shown that you have been harmed, but these judges have left the door open that if in the future plaintiffs or challengers can show that their data was compromised or improperly used, they may be able to return to court.
The Democrats are being shut down in court because these judges aren't willing to listen to their same fear-mongering that was their entire strategy the last 4 years. Oh, Trump's going to be a threat to democracy. Oh, Trump's going to end the Constitution. Trump's going to weaponize the military on the public. They always had to talk about hypothetical or pretend scenarios because when you talked about reality, what's actually happening, every time the Democrats are the culprit of those claims. And while that strategy lost them the election, they certainly have the right to continue to ruin their credibility and go on TV and lie to people. But that same strategy isn't going to work in the courtrooms. You can't ask a judge to make a legally binding ruling, especially one that has such a consequential and extreme effect as what they're asking, which is to shut down the federal government solely based on your wild imagination. And this is clear as Bernie Sanders goes on CNN and the reporter asks him about these judge rulings and he proves the judge right. All they're doing is speculating.
But today, a federal judge here, Tanya Chutkan, she's well known to our audience from the Trump trials, she declined to block Musk and his team from getting access, because she basically said she wasn't getting specific enough examples from these AGs about how Musk could cause irreparable harm to their estate. And if they can't prove that in court, what does that say?
Well, I tell you what I happen to believe. At the end of the day, the struggle against Trump, the struggle against oligarchy, which is led by Elon Musk, the struggle against authoritarianism, the fight to make sure that the working class of this country gets a fair shake, that is not going to be won here in Capitol Hill. It's going to be won by millions of people all over this country standing up and saying, you know what, we fought and died for democracy. We're not going to move toward authoritarianism. We fought to create a country that works for all, not just the billionaire class. That's the struggle, and I'm going to be active in trying to rally the American people to do just that.
The very beginning of his answer exposed it all. Well, this is what I believe, not this is what you know. Your pretentious Democrat crystal ball that tells you the future isn't sufficient evidence. And you see how he doesn't answer the question, because the only answer to that question is the Democrats have weak, insufficient arguments. Instead, he quickly pivots to his comfort zone of unrelated and frankly tiring socialist talking points. Income inequality. Democrats embody what everybody despises about politicians. They always revert to their overly rehearsed political talking points and slogans. There is no fight to be had for the Democrats in the courts because they have no evidence. They have no premise to stand on that would indicate anything Elon or Trump is doing is unconstitutional. He admitted the only strategy they have is to try to lie and fearmonger long enough to their base that they'll feel galvanized enough to fight a losing battle. But that same strategy of saying, look how bad the other side is, instead of providing a plan of your own, is what drove away so many moderate Democrats in this election. Now let's listen to this enraged lady on the CNN panel pull out her pretentious, elitist Democrat crystal ball and say, even though we have no evidence Elon Musk is doing anything wrong, well, we just know he is. Watch.
I mean, listen, we don't know who Elon Musk is. I mean, Elon Musk hasn't gotten security clearance. Why would you want someone who doesn't have security clearance to gain access to my secure data? I'm going to speak on behalf of the American people, if you don't mind, Wolf. What does getting sensitive information or access to grainy sensitive information have to do with cutting government waste? What does getting that information, access to that information, have to do with the price of eggs in Iowa? Absolutely nothing. The fox is in the hen house at this point, and Donald Trump is asleep at the wheel. He cannot tell us what information is being accessed, who's accessing it, and for what purpose are they using it. If you ask me, this is all, the only explanation at hand is that Donald Trump is bought by Elon Musk, and Elon Musk has carte blanche to do whatever he wants and to sell out Americans' sensitive data. The American people have to wake up to what's happening right now. This is not a test. And here's the other thing that I think is most concerning. This is only what we know, Wolf. It's what we don't know that Elon Musk is doing that is most alarming and should be most alarming to the American people.
First off, this lady was a former senior advisor to President Biden. And I think her lack of critical thinking, common sense, and unjustified outrage highlights everything that was wrong with the last administration. And number two, anytime someone says, I speak for all Americans when I say, just shows you how pretentious and elitist these people are, that they think they have it all figured out and they're so smart and their shit doesn't stink. They keep talking about how Elon Musk is unelected as if that's a credible concern, when no elected official has ever had access to the Treasury Department's payment system. No senator, no congressman, no president. It's only been a handful of unelected career bureaucrats, and they have access to all of the information that somehow Elon Musk having access to is a national security threat, a constitutional crisis. We don't know who these people are. They have no accountability to the American people. Elon Musk is one of the most famous people on planet Earth. If he does something wrong or illegal, there will be so much scrutiny coming from the public, coming from world governments, coming from businesses. If there is anybody that I trust to do a comprehensive audit on the federal government to identify waste, fraud, and abuse, it is somebody that's widely known and in the public eye, not some no-name bureaucrat or forensic accountant. Now listen to this guy on the panel absolutely scorch that outraged Biden advisor with just some simple common sense.
And they're advising where the fraud, waste, and abuse is taking place. And yes, sometimes they do need data. They need, sometimes they need social security numbers to make sure there's not duplicates going on.
Banking information to determine how to cut government. What does that have to do with government?
They have to look at everything. Listen, when your bank account has been breached, you look at everything that's going place. You don't just say keep spending money and say I'll do research later.
Why do you need access to my personal bank account information? That's the problem. Is accessing people's personal information, and we don't know anything about Elon Musk.
We do. He's received security clearance for his contracts he's received. I mean, let's be clear. Elon has passed extensive security background checks because he's gotten these agreements during the Obama administration, during the Biden administration. So it's a lie to say Elon has not been vetted. He has been vetted by the FBI. He has been vetted by this government, or he would have never received those contracts. So I get that's a talking point that you want to confuse the American people on that. But the reality is he does have all these clearances, so he does have these access. The question becomes is why is the deep state sort of fighting this resistance of what President Trump was elected to do?
And I hate to talk so poorly about my fellow American citizens, but how can Democrats be so stupid? Elon Musk works on the most high-tech, cutting-edge rocket technology in the world. Do they not think that the guy who's working on the most advanced rocket technology that has military and space applications hasn't been subjected to the most comprehensive and extensive government background checks? He gets billions of dollars from NASA in the military every single year. Do you think they're just giving them that money if the CEO and founder of the company was some Russian asset or in bed with China? So this idea that Elon Musk doesn't have the appropriate security clearances just fails the common sense test. But Democrats don't care. They just want to be stuck in their delusional echo chamber. They just want to believe the guy who used to be a Democrat, who was broadly applauded for his innovation in technology, is now actually Lex Luthor because he's decided to work with Donald Trump. Elon is the epitome of the saying, die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become a villain. It's like revolutionizing the electric battery and commercializing electric cars. Oh, wow, that's awesome. Innovating rocket technology and allow rockets to come down from space and be caught so they're reusable and cost effective. Oh, wow, that's awesome. Applaud that. Work with Donald Trump to stop America from going bankrupt and stop the fraud and corruption to the taxpayers. Oh, no. That's too much. That's unethical. That's fascism. That's a constitutional crisis. And it begs the question the guy asked at the very end. Why is the deep state fighting so hard? And we all know the answer, but let's hear it from the man himself, Donald Trump, as he lists a bevy of ridiculous spending items that DOGE has most recently found. Watch.
Investments in Africa and mobilize private sector resources, $520 million. Somebody got $520 million for an environmental, sounds like an environmental study. I've always been one that paid a lot of money for my environmental studies, but I paid like $50,000, not $520 million. $520 million for ESG. $25 million to promote biodiversity, conservation, and promote licit livelihoods by developing socially responsible behavior in the country of Colombia. Well, it's nice, $25 million to go into Colombia for something that nobody ever heard of. $40 million to improve the social and economic inclusion of sedentary migrants. $40 million. $42 million for Johns Hopkins, great place, to research and drive social and behavior change in Uganda.
In all fairness, these payments make sense if you understand what the Biden administration's goals were. They wanted to push their socialist, environmental, Green New Deal scam across the globe. They wanted to force their transgender ideology on everybody. They wanted to force their racist and discriminatory DEI policies on everybody. They wanted to rob the American taxpayer of all their money. They wanted to run up a $2.5 trillion deficit so they could fund tens of thousands of NGOs. That sole purpose is to funnel money back into the pockets of Democrat politicians and their donors and donate to Democrat campaigns, to provide all these nonprofits with money to help facilitate the illegal immigrant crisis, and then provide these illegal immigrants with all kinds of free benefits in hopes that they would vote for Democrats in perpetuity. So yeah, all that spending makes sense in that context, but in the context of common sense and value for the American taxpayers, this almost sounds like a comedy skit. And the last thing I want to show you, which I think you'll find hilarious, is this cartoon that's been circulating around X, describing these exact wild spendings. Enjoy a good laugh watching this.
Okay, people, we've discovered some incredible abuses of the budget. I mean, really, where are you getting off with these insane expenditures? $10 million spent on body positivity for Haitians in captivity, $8 million on glitter bombs for Saudi Arabian imams, and $9 million on chocolate fondue for East Ukrainian Hebrews.
They have just as much a right to chocolate fondue as anyone, you Nazi!
Well, I'm sorry, but it has to be cut.
No! If you cut $10 million from the CFEUH budget, what's next? Cutting our $3 million budget to give free McFlurries to Pakistani furries?
Well, now that you bring it up.
Oh, come on!
Oh, wow. That's yeah, no, we're definitely cutting that.
This is insanity. You're letting our budget get cut by literal babies!
Because even an infant can balance these books better than you. I mean, come on, people, come on. 50 million taxpayer dollars for Kool-Aid water fountains for North Korean accountants.
It almost seems like there's a leaderboard, Glengarry, Glenn Ross style, where first place gets a car, second place gets some steak knives, third place gets fired for who can come up with the least common sense, most ridiculous way to spend the American taxpayers' money. These programs are a complete mockery to the seriousness of the United States. It showed a complete lack of priorities for the past administration and is probably a large reason why Russia was emboldened and Iran was emboldened and China is emboldened, because they saw that the White House was completely taken over by a clown circus. They're worried about global supremacy and increasing their military might, and we're worried about spending our money on free circumcisions in Mozambique. But the fraud goes even deeper than that. Later today or tomorrow, I'll be posting a video about the $120 billion illegal immigrant Social Security fraud that was just uncovered. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that one. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a video. And I will see you guys in the next one.